friends, I hope this finds you doing super well. So you may have come across the abbreviations HRT and TRT, and you might be wondering if you should actually take the plunge. However, you are pretty sure that you have not yet optimized all the ways you can naturally increase your testosterone levels beforehand. If this is the case, then this video is for you. Today we're going to take a relatively deep dive into the ways to optimize your testosterone levels naturally. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Andrew, and I have been attempting to self-improve for the past 15 to 20 years. I have acquired quite a bit of information through books, online sources, online personalities, and most of all through trial, and even more so. And I wish to share what I have learned with you when it comes to optimizing T levels in this video. So let's go. So first of all, what is testosterone? Testosterone is an anabolic/androgenic steroid hormone produced both in men and women. It is responsible for improving mood, energy levels, cognitive ability, sex drive, and most importantly, muscle gains. Before attempting to optimize your testosterone levels, I recommend running blood work in order to understand where you're currently at. When requesting your blood work, it is important to ensure that you have the following markers that are listed on screen now. This will help give a broader picture of your body's current status in relation to testosterone, free testosterone, estrogen conversion, etc. In order to optimize testosterone levels, I have arranged this video into multiple pillars or chapters, if you will. The chapters are the following: sleep, training regime, diet, stress levels, sunlight exposure, body composition, general things to avoid, and probably everyone's favorite, supplementation. Sleep. Try sleep and wake at the same time every day. This will help anchor in your circadian rhythm and allow your body to become better at sleeping. I would also recommend to stop using devices with screens perhaps 30 to 60 minutes before bed. This includes, of course, phones, tablets, laptops, televisions, etc. The reason for this is twofold. The first is that these devices can potentially stimulate your brain and prolong the time it takes for you to actually fall asleep. And the second is that they emit blue light, which can interfere with melatonin production and also in turn lower your sleep quality. Another important note to consider when it comes to sleep: there is no such thing as the perfect sleep. What I'm getting to here is don't try and force yourself to sleep. There was a study I had come across once upon a time where it showed that if you are lying in bed with a lowered heart rate, you are pretty much getting 25% of the rest that you would get if you were absolutely knocked out. So don't put extra pressure on yourself in order to sleep perfectly, because as we all know, that does not work. Training regime. So I would focus the majority of your training efforts around lifting heavy ass weight. What I mean here is basically a 3-day full body workout split. So that means you are hitting the entire body on each of the 3 training sessions you run during the week. It is important to have these exercises built around compound movements, meaning multiple muscle groups for each exercise. For example, squats, deadlifts, bench press, military press, pull-ups, bent over rows, etc. I will probably be covering this full body workout regime in a bit more detail in later videos, but for now, it's worth noting. The rep range for each exercise, I would aim for about 8 to 12 reps. That means you will not be able to do more than 8 or 12. It's kind of to failure, if you will. 3 working sets per body part, and of course running the relevant warm-ups before actually performing the working sets. For cardio training, what I would recommend is training around HIIT or high intensity interval training. And what I mean here is specifically sprinting. Sprinting, I believe, is one of the most natural movements humans can perform. We have evolved to do so over several millennia, if you will. When you are sprinting flat out, you are recruiting so many muscle groups in the body and so much of the nervous system that you're bound to secrete a lot of testosterone. More specifically, what I would do is once to twice per week, go out for a sprinting session. And I would break up this session starting at around 3 sprints with perhaps 2.5, 3 minute break in between, just ensuring that your heart rate has recovered, basically going below 100 BPM. And eventually I would build up to around 10 sprints in each session, and I would also start to reduce the rest in between each session. Try this and let me know how you feel afterwards. Diet. First and foremost, testosterone is synthesized in the body from cholesterol. And cholesterol can be also created in the body from saturated fat. So it is important that you ingest the relevant amount of healthy saturated fat. On screen, you can see the different types of healthy saturated fat sources. I would aim for at least 80 grams per day of fats, predominantly around saturated fats. Keep in mind that fat calories add up pretty quickly, so ensure that you are still within your daily caloric goals. And of course, that you're also hitting adequate protein levels. Another food group to incorporate in your diet for optimizing T levels is cruciferous vegetables. These type of vegetables help control estrogen. Now, what you will soon find out is that estrogen levels can affect testosterone production in the body. So, if estrogen levels are too high, the body can end up being triggered to lowering production of testosterone. So, keeping estrogen levels under control is crucial to optimize testosterone levels. Another important food source to keep within your diet is that of complex carbohydrates. The reason is when we are ingesting carbohydrates, insulin is being secreted in our bodies. And insulin can potentially control cortisol, which is an antagonistic hormone to testosterone, meaning as cortisol rises, testosterone can be lowered. So we want to keep cortisol, which is typically known as the stress hormone, under control. And we can do so by ensuring that we have adequate carbohydrates in our diet. Stress levels. First and foremost, what I would recommend is getting into meditation. You can start light, perhaps 5 to 10 minutes every morning, and then you can increase as you wish. I highly recommend this. There are several apps out there that you can get started on your meditation journey. Hopefully, in later videos, we can perhaps dive into this a bit deeper if there is the interest for it. Another important factor into controlling stress levels is not to overtrain. Now, I know this word overtraining has been thrown around quite a lot and it is rather subjective. However, what I mean here is do not go over 45 minutes on each of your training sessions. The reason for this is that cortisol will start to spike potentially exponentially after this amount of time, and like we said previously, cortisol can lower testosterone, so we want to keep that hormone in check as well. What I would also avoid is zone 3 or excessive zone 3 cardiovascular training. So what qualifies as zone 3 for me is basically when you are performing a cardiovascular activity such as jogging, but you are unable to hold a conversation while doing so. So that to me is zone 3 or higher, and I would avoid this because it's going to start pushing cortisol levels quite high, especially when we're trying to optimize T levels. I would focus my cardiovascular training around zone 1 and 2, so that means walking briskly outside. Walking is actually very beneficial in lowering cortisol as well, so we're burning fat and we're also controlling cortisol, so a brilliant tool to keep in the toolbox. And like I said previously, you could also incorporate HIIT training such as the sprinting sessions once or twice per week. Sunlight exposure. This is important because testosterone production is very correlated to vitamin D levels. Now, vitamin D can be optimized in two ways. One is sunlight exposure, as you probably already know, and the other is through supplementation. I recommend doing both and monitoring blood levels and then adjusting accordingly. When it comes to sunlight exposure, I would highly recommend getting outside. That means exposing your eyes to sunlight first thing in the morning. This will trigger a cascade of chemical reactions in the brain and body and will firstly anchor in your circadian rhythm, and also this cascade of chemical reactions can eventually result in better melatonin production and in turn better sleep. Body composition. Like we touched upon earlier, testosterone can convert into two other hormones. Dihydrotestosterone, which is DHT, or estrogen. Now, testosterone converts to estrogen in the aromatase enzyme. And the aromatase enzyme is predominantly found in the fatty tissue. So, the more fatty tissue you tend to carry, the more likely you are going to be converting your testosterone into estrogen. Now, keep in mind that when the body detects high levels of estrogen, it will downregulate testosterone production. So you can end up in an estrogen-dominant scenario, which you obviously do not want. So keeping your body fat in relatively optimized ranges is going to reduce the risk of converting testosterone into estrogen. General things to avoid when optimizing T levels. It is worth noting that Our grandparents had 20 to 30% higher testosterone levels than what we have today. The reason for this is, aside from the stressful lifestyle we lead, the exposure to bright lights all day long, the lack of outdoor exposure, basically stuff I previously mentioned, this is also due to environmental toxins. So what's happening is we're being exposed to a lot of chemicals that mimic estrogen, or the body perceives to be like estrogen. Now, as we said, estrogen can trigger the body to downregulate testosterone. So it is important to avoid these compounds. Most of them are found in plastics. So that being said, it is crucial to avoid plastic as much as you can. And if you absolutely cannot avoid it, ensure that it is kept out of the sun and away from heat. If you really want to take things to the next level when it comes to optimizing T levels, make sure that your shampoos or soaps and fragrances are paraben-free. I would also recommend utilizing fluoride-free toothpaste. Fluoride has been shown to drastically reduce testosterone levels. And another big one is to avoid certain herbal testosterone boosters. So there are many herbal testosterone boosters out there, or marketed as testosterone boosters, and the way they work is they block the conversion of testosterone to DHT, which is something you absolutely do not want, in my opinion. Supplements that fall into this category that I know of are saw palmetto, stinging nettle, and fenugreek. Another food to avoid is mint and licorice. These have also been found to lower testosterone. Feel free to perform your own research. This is just my advice to shortcut your process. Supplementation, everybody's probably favorite topic. First of all, I would incorporate the minerals zinc and magnesium. Zinc has been shown to control the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, which, as we previously pointed out, can be a good thing when optimizing T levels, and has a host of other health benefits. Magnesium can help rest and recovery, can help sleep, can help insulin sensitivity, and again, a host of other health benefits too. So when it comes to zinc, I would recommend zinc picolinate or zinc methionine. When it comes to magnesium, I would recommend magnesium citrate or magnesium biglycinate. Another important amino acid to ingest is glycine. Glycine can also help sleep, can lower cortisol potentially, and can also help improve insulin sensitivity. Another important mineral is boron. Boron can help reduce SHBG, or sex hormone binding globulin, and this in turn will result in higher free testosterone levels, which is actually what we really should be caring about. Important to supplement with vitamin D as well. What I would recommend here is vitamin D3, and ideally in liquid form. Now, once all the previous steps have been implemented, you can move on to looking into herbal testosterone boosters. In this category, what I would recommend considering are tongatali, ashwagandha, and potentially Fedosia agrestis, which I myself, with Fedosia, I don't have any experience, but the science does seem promising. However, there might be some side effects as well. Please perform your own research and proceed with caution. Important when sourcing tongatali and ashwagandha. First of all, ashwagandha needs to be KSM 66 certified. The sourcing of both supplements should be considered or researched thoroughly before taking the plunge. Perhaps eventually we can look into pharmaceutical grade solutions. Compounds that I know of that work are N-clomiphene, clomiphene or clomid, Arimidex, and potentially Cialis as well. So guys, I hope this helps you get set on the right track when it comes to optimizing your T levels. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comments below. I will try to get back to you myself personally. Hi guys, for some reason the ending of this filming session is non-existent. Don't ask me why. I just want to thank you for listening, and also let me know how you get on with the protocols mentioned in today's video. I hope it will help you on your T optimizing journey, and I wish you the best of luck.